It's Friday, September 20th. The Metropolitan Planning Organization Board is now in session. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We can have a call of the roll now, please.
Commissioner Greenwell. Here. Commissioner Hammond. Here. Commissioner Sandelli. Here. Commissioner Pendergrass. Commissioner Wayne. Here. Councilmember Streets. Here. Councilmember Burson. Present. Councilmember Teresa Watkins-Brown. Councilmember Bonk. Mayor Gunter. Councilmember Shepard. Councilmember Long. Here. Councilmember Hayden. Here. Councilmember Welsh. Councilmember Cosden. Councilmember Stenke, Councilmember Richard Carr, Councilmember King.
Here.
Councilmember Henshaw. Here. Deputy Mayor Forbes. Here. Councilmember Laura Carr. Here. Councilmember Chris Corey is alternate, but he's here as well. And Mayor McLean. Here. And we have a quorum.
Thanks, Don. We'll go ahead and take public comments on the consent agenda items. Are there any public comments on that? Seeing none, do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Laura. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Jenny. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We will take now public comments on each public hearing and new business item. Moving on. The public hearing items are approve amendments to the fiscal year 2025-2026 to fiscal year 2028 to 2029 Transportation Improvement Program. Don?
So this is to add funding for certain projects. A new project, the Cape Coral Roundabout study at $150,000. The Gunnery Buckingham Road project needed some more funding, and now $5.9 million. Gunnery at Buckingham also to add the CEI services for $649,000, and then out on Fort Myers Beach, the new the Times Square paver project, which is funded, but this is for CEI services at $150,000. In addition, we always add in the roll forward report. These are projects that either haven't started yet for some reason or another, or are still ongoing, or have already been completed, and there's money left over that needs to be reallocated at some point. I open it up for any comments anybody has.
Any comments for the board? Any public comment? Seeing none, this calls for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Greenwell. Yes. Commissioner Hammond. Yes. Commissioner Sandelli. Yes. Commissioner Wayne. Yes. Councilmember Streets. Yes. Councilmember Burson. Yes. Councilmember Long. Yes. Councilmember Hayden. Councilmember Richard Carr. Yes. Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Henshaw. Yes. Deputy Mayor Forbes. Here. Councilmember Laura Carr. Yes. Mayor McLean. Yes. We actually have a motion and a second on that.
We did not. Sorry. I'm in a rush. I'm trying to beat Cecil's records.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Second.
So motion to Greenwell, and the second was Hammond.
Okay.
It's for the minutes.
Yes.
Now come on, Don, you're delaying. I can beat Cecil Pendergrass's record.
I think you're going to have a hard time with that today.
Okay. Moving on then, thank you. Approve an amendment to the Unified Planning Work Program to add funding. Don?
This is the MPO budget. We have $32,088 in additional funds. This comes in from the transit portion of it, which really gets transferred over to a federal highway, but that's where the calculation comes in. They usually come in about this time of the year. Also, as part of this amendment, I'm doing a modification. We're moving some money, $15,000 to for the bike ped element scope. We've had a lot of discussion about micromobility, so some stuff was added to the scope as part of the process. So I've moved some money from one task to another. I'll open up any questions anybody has.
Board? Any public comment? Do we have a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve the amendment.
Thank you, Laura. Second? Roll call vote?
Commissioner Greenwell, Commissioner Hammond, Commissioner Sandelli, Commissioner Wayne, Councilmember Streets, Councilmember Burson, Councilmember Long, Councilmember Hayden, Councilmember Richard Carr, Councilmember King,
Aye.
Councilmember Henshaw, Deputy Mayor Forbes, Councilmember Laura Carr, Mayor McLean.
Yes. So approved. Thank you. Moving on to new business, we have a resolution authorizing signature of functional classification and urban area boundary map set. Ron?
So, in your agenda packet, you have a map set, which has the adjusted urban area boundary map for the county, and then you have the functional classification updates. That is actually included within the urban area boundary map, and that's the map that you have. Actually, you got a presentation from APTA back in March, which the MPO board accepted. So basically, anything in pink shaded is the new adjusted Lee County urban area boundaries. And then what you see inside, the lines out here reflects the roadway network, and the colors basically indicate the roadway is an arterial road or minor collector, local road, or whatever. But anyway, so after it was accepted by the board back in March, it went to the central office of FDOT, and they, in coordination with the Florida Office of Federal Highway Administration, reviewed the maps and the tables, and they actually approved it. Now it requires signature from three parties: the Lee MPO, FDOT, and Federal Highway Administration. So we have a resolution in your packet, basically authorizing Don to sign on behalf of the Lee MPO. That's what we are asking today. Any questions?
Any questions from the board?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Was this approved, or was it reviewed by the TAC and the CAC?
The TAC is,
Okay.
because the District 1, for every county, like the specific district that they are in, the district leads the effort. FDOT District 1 led the effort, and they coordinate with MPO staff, and we in turn coordinate with the Technical Advisory Committee, because that essentially represents the local government agencies.
And how did they pass it? Did they agree with it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Any other questions from the board? Any public comment? I'm assuming you want a motion on this then?
Motion to approve signature.
Thank you, Laura. I'm sorry, the second was? Fred, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next is the endorsement of the aviation priorities. Ron?
Well, these priorities are the Lee County Port Authorities, and every year we adopt, like the MPO board adopts these priorities. If you look at the list of projects in there, they have not changed from last year or the year before. Basically, like they have three projects that they have actually assigned any priorities, like 1, 2, or 3. Okay, so that's what I meant. They left the other projects without any kind of priority order. It's just, like they called out their three main important projects. And also, the aviation priorities include projects for both RSW and Pacefield. So this one is base fill. And also a couple of things that I wanted to point out is on the RSW list, like you have projects already underway, for example, the terminal expansion, and then you also have terminal expansion phase 2, but that only includes the gates portion of Concourse D. And I think one of the projects is already completed. Well, I know for a fact that the design and construction of the air traffic control tower and track and is already completed, but they're still in the list because Port Authority is trying to recoup some of the money that they have already spent. So it's almost like a reimbursement. So that's what we have. So basically, we are asking the MPO board to endorse the LCPA priorities.
Any questions from the board?
I'll move approval, Mr. Chair. I'll second.
Public comment?
Yeah. Any public comment on this? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now moving on to a presentation by the Trust for Public Land on the status of the BERT acquisition.
Good morning, Doug Hadaway, Trust for Public Land. I also am joined in the audience with my colleague Charles Hines, who's the program director for the Gulf Coast Trail, a Trust for Public Land program. Also want to note that Deb Orton, as president of the Friends of BERT, and several of her board members and volunteers, dedicated volunteers, are also here. And Deb and Charles and I will be happy at the end of this presentation to answer any discussion or questions following the presentation. Thank you, Councilmember King, for Don Scott, for allowing us to be here and provide you a very brief update of our work on your project called the BERT project. And just an arrow down out of work. I have been here before to tell you about the benefits of this trail: safety, health, wellness, economic development, etc. I'm not going to rehash that. However, there is a much better way of explaining that with a video that's 3 minutes that I'd like to show for you right now.
Guys, this is a good one. Miles of century-old railroad running from Alico Road down past Bonita Beach Road, like so much of the country is doing, is turning abandoned railroads into linear parks, and the possibilities are out of control. The transformation in quality of life, tourism, real estate values, safety, personal health, commerce, and economic gain are only limited by our imaginations. And BERT, the driving force behind this project, is asking you to start dreaming, because eventually everybody is going to be involved.
The rail line is 14.9 miles long, 130 feet wide, and is now under contract to be sold in order to create a greenway and trail.
Just to be able to get on my bike, I don't have to worry about going on a sidewalk. I see myself grabbing lunch, grabbing a coffee, bring the kid over to the park, and just be safe.
Think of it as a 15-mile-long park that doubles as a 15-mile-long highway made for only foot and bike traffic. The state will rip up the rails, clean up the whole 130-foot wide area, put down an asphalt trail, and then the private sector and the communities along the path will get involved to beautify it for years to come. So what we have is kind of like a 15-mile blank slate. Do you like to look at it that way?
I like to look at it that way. That is a fantastic way to look at it.
A business takes ownership of it, or a sole individual.
You'll be able to travel the trail to downtowns, the mall, parks, schools, neighborhoods, different communities.
Here's Coconut Point Mall. On the other side of these trees is the rail line. There's already plans to build an access point so that people can use the trail to get there. 70,000 residents will be able to have a 10-minute walk to this new trail. Within a mile of the trail, you can expect your homes to be worth at least 7, maybe more like 20% more.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
And put their name on it? This butterfly garden by so-and-so coffee shop.
A little garden.
Supporters are saying things like, we'd like to build a park. We'd like to build an access point.
Bringing this here is going to provide so much more safety.
There are 11 schools, 10,000 students that will be within a mile, able to safely get to school. We won't have visitors that only come for the beaches. They'll come for this as well.
Repeatedly across the nation, results of similar rail trail reconstruction initiatives have been astounding. Residents are already contemplating ways to enhance their segment to enhance the appeal of their localities. They're putting forth ideas for gardens, amenities, architectural elements, bridges, landscapes, small parks, access points, and a whole bunch of other imaginative projects. Could you imagine how many people could be on this in a day?
Oh my gosh.
It's going to be crazy.
I hope someone's there with a little clicker counter.
Yeah, thank you, Deb. Orton.
Welcome to the Everglade Green Dispatch, your go-to source for stories and insights from the heart of Florida's wild places. I'm Jessica, and each week we explore the environmental issues, conservation efforts.
Sorry about that. So as a reminder, this trail is not an isolated piece, which is what the video hints at. It's something that fits into a larger network. As you can see, the listed projects here are those active projects which this body and your communities are currently working on. And you see the red portion of this trail, which is the spine of the trail network through Lee County. And might I mention and remind that BERT project also sneaks into 1.5 miles into Collier County as well, not reflected on this map. But these projects here, Kismet and Cape Coral, Little John Road widening, Calusa Bridge that we're all watching as we cross the river right now under construction, the John Yarborough Trail, already there. The north end of this project ties directly into the John Yarborough Trail, bringing us into farther north. The Colonial Pedestrian Bridge construction, and of course, the Bonita Rail Trail. With this segment, we will be able to have true network, a spine of a trail system connecting Cape Coral all the way down into Collier County. And thank you for what this board has done in the past. This slide shows you what staging efforts have been underway, and the staging efforts have a lot to do with being able to position this project in such a way that we will be putting our best foot forward on securing the funding necessary to acquire this corridor. That is the phase we're currently engaged in, is acquiring this corridor. There's nothing to construct if we don't actually own and control the dirt. So thank you to this board for placing this project already on the state and federal priorities funding list, as well as your Sun Trail sub list as well. Thank you for that. Communities, some of you are representing communities that have already formally endorsed this, such as the city of Fort Myers. Councilmember King, I would love to come to your community and have you endorse this project as well, because there are feeders from the town of Fort Myers Beach. I would like to go meet with the council of Cape Coral and do the same thing that the city of Fort Myers has done and endorse this trail because of its connectivity throughout the county. We also have submitted an application, already one application for federal funding. We're able to leverage, and thank you to the city of Bonita Springs and the village of Estero, which have allotted each $5 million that can be toward the acquisition of this project, that in turn was used to serve as local commitment and match for this application that was submitted in Collier County. Also, the Board of County Commissioners also realizing that the importance of this trail to their community and their purposes have contributed funds for that and support of that application, which, by the way, enjoyed the letters, strong letters of support from Congressman Donalds and both Senators Rubio and Scott. So the funding strategy, what slide am I on here? Funding strategy, slide number 5. It's $82 million. We've talked about this before. It's a lot of money. So how do we break this down into bite-size or manageable amounts? Well, this is one way of looking at it, dividing it into thirds, state, federal, and local funding sources. There's many ways to skin the cat, and this is one way to do it, and this is subject to revision as we progress over the next year and a half in trying to raise the funding to acquire this corridor. What's really critical here is, particularly highlighted when we submitted that one application to the federal grant program, was the importance of collaboration and coordination, particularly among the principal local governments. That would be, in this case, City of Bonita Springs, Village of Estero, Lee, and Collier County. I'll highlight this later, but one of the things that we learned out of that would really help strengthen our ability for future funding requests, both state and federal is some kind of an interlocal agreement. So I would encourage you to help us work with your staff to develop and execute an interlocal agreement that can be used to substantiate the coordinated effort. So that kind of a simple, formal engagement and intent to work together will go a long way for us to be able to source a lot of funding. Where are we in the timeline? As a reminder, we did put this property under contract after 4 years of negotiation, off and on negotiation with Seminole Gulf Railroad. Trust for Public Land only started these negotiations because we were asked to come into the communities by those 4 local governments 4 years ago to help realize this vision of this trail, which is not just a recreational trail as you saw in the video. It's about safety, it's about routes to school, it's about environmental enhancements, it's about public health and alternative transportation, particularly benefiting those where transportation is the second highest household expense, those lower income households and disadvantaged communities that do straddle this corridor. So where are we? So we got it under contract in February, and then I already mentioned the support we've been able to get from the local jurisdictions, which is great. Those bullets at the top of the slide, I mentioned this interlocal agreement, I called it, or MOU as mentioned on the slide, is a key next step for us in the short term. We wish to align leaders locally here going into the next legislative session, working with your state delegates to express unity and coordination to align your state priorities going into the next session to secure a state funding allocation towards this project is very critical at this time. I think a lot of action will happen formally after the election, but getting staged for that is a critical part so that things will run more smoothly when the time comes. Continuing to secure local funding to demonstrate that local support for getting the outside funding is critical. Lee County 2020 is an opportunity for us to secure additional local funding as well to build on what's already been committed. And of course, as we'll never stop working with your local community groups, Friends of Burt, to continue reaching out to a diverse set of civic and business organizations to demonstrate and educate and make people aware not only of it, but how they will benefit from this project. That will continue throughout the entirety of this project. Safety. Time is of the essence for this project. Florida holds 8 of the top 20 most deadly metropolitan areas in the United States. 3 of those are in Southwest Florida. In 2022, in Lee County alone, 33 deaths, 344 crashes involving vehicles and pedestrians. Florida, Lee, is 3rd in the nation for pedestrian and cyclist deaths in the country. And then here's a wonderful video that was produced by DOT.
Well, the gang's all here. Let's hit the road.
It's the Disney Plus Blockbuster offer.
That's right.
Did you know in Florida, an average of 800 pedestrians and bicyclists are fatally injured in traffic crashes every year? What do you think is a more acceptable number?
Acceptable? Maybe 50?
Okay, this is what 50 people look like.
Oh, that's my family, my friends.
So now, what do you think is a more acceptable number?
0. Definitely 0.
People are dying, and this is an opportunity to provide an alternative, safer way to get to school, to get to work, to get outdoors, to connect with one another, and time is of the essence. And then lastly, my last slide, y'all, I told you it would be brief. Next steps. I want to highlight our near-term next steps for you so you're aware of where we're currently working with your communities. We are looking at working with the city of Bonita Springs to submit the next federal grant application, EPA's Community Change Grant. We can ask for up to $20 million, no match for that. But we also, I would ask of Collier County, I think Ms. Scott is in the background, I would like to have Collier County and the village of Estero, who have already demonstrated publicly strong support for this project, to be co-applicants for that application as well. I would love to see Lee County also be a co-applicant for that as well. But Bonita Springs being the lead because of that grant funding source is interested in benefiting disadvantaged communities, and the city of Bonita Springs has several tracts, census tracts that EPA has determined as disadvantaged communities. I might mention San Carlos Park in unincorporated Lee County is also one of those. So we need to continue to look for local funding sources. Lee 2020 I mentioned already, and then continuing to work with Collier County for their budgetary process to be able to raise funds for that segment of the corridor in Collier County. I want to give you the heads up that a raise application, which would be sometime in early 2025, is something to stage for and is in our sites as well. I mentioned the November election. Your state delegates that we have been engaging and meeting with are in support of a strategy to secure state funding for this, and I encourage you to communicate with them directly your support for this as well, because they want to make sure that there's local commitment in addition to your voices and support and your formal motions, but also the funding coming from the communities as well is a very important way, as you know better than I do, in securing state appropriations. And then lastly, we'll continue to do presentations to local communities and spreading the word about the benefits of this project. So I want to try to leave you with this thought to stimulate some conversation. This is your project. What you talk about, what you think is important, what you think is the right strategy to help us get to the finish line is critical. We're just a conduit to help you get to the finish line. This is not our Trust for Public Lands project. This is your community's project. So, I want to go back to the memorandum of understanding or the interlocal agreement, being able to guide your staff or direct your staff to say, yes, this is something we support to show unity, and being able to get our best foot forward to secure outside funding is a critical step in that venture as well. So that is my brief presentation. I think there's public comment, Councilmember King, and then Charles and Deb and I will be here to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from Fred? Has a question.
Yeah, one thing I'd suggest you do to the first video, a big problem that you're not showing is that there are areas of the right-of-way, vacated or not being used right-of-way, that look like hell. They're Village of Estero even offered to clean up an area, and the railroad in their benevolence said you have to pay us a fee to let you clean it up. So you need to show some of those areas because that resolves that issue itself. And when you have bad areas, that can also breed some crime too.
Deputy Mayor Forbes, thank you for bringing that out. There's a lot of challenges with the corridor as it is right now. It is a liability and an eyesore for communities.
Well, just show it in your video, get some shots.
There's so much that this corridor presents to benefits to the communities. You're right. It's just hard to choose which ones to highlight, and sometimes the messages differ based upon the audience. Yes. But thank you for pointing that out. That's true.
Any other questions from the board?
We can help.
Okay, we'll open it up to public comment.
Yeah. All we have to do is change the name on the thing. And it's Springs. Quickie.
The cards are there on the table.
Patty Whitehead? It's all right.
Hi, good morning, MPO board. I live in Estero. My family has a business in Bonita. I live very close to this corridor. Our business is also very close to the corridor. And it's really of utmost importance that this rail trail plan takes place, because right now it's nothing. It's less than nothing. I mean, it's just, I really appreciate Deputy Mayor Forbes's comments. So true. It's really this horrible abandoned wasteland is what it is. It's a wasteland currently, right? I mean, the current owners are under no obligation to maintain it, to clean it up, to make it safe, to use it in any fashion. And here we have an opportunity to make it this really splendid, gorgeous transportation corridor. Not only just a transportation corridor, but this just elegant greenway. I mean, if you've ever been in cities or counties or any municipality that has a greenway, you you will know instantly what I'm talking about. It's like this ribbon of this oasis, this of just gorgeousness, of greenway, of natural plantings, of nature, of people recreating, of people connecting, of people enjoying their immediate surroundings. And we can't do that right now, right? We hop on a bike, we're shot out onto a highway with a, 11-inch or 14-inch strip of asphalt next to dump trucks. You know, that's not only unpleasant, it's life-threatening. So, you know, just like the multitude of ways that this will improve your community is just staggering. And why would you not want to consider this? Why would you not want to consider bringing in the income that this would bring in? Boosting your businesses, boosting your property values, boosting your appearance to the rest of the country where they say, oh my God, they have this wonderful bike path that you can go and recreate. Our beaches now are in really bad shape and they're not getting any better. You know that. Despite all the money that's being poured into all these Everglades restoration plans and all this analysis of water, there's not going to be any tangible outcome to this. We've destroyed our waterways. It's done. We can't go backwards. There's too much development. This is the last best hope for bringing some sort of gorgeous recreational opportunity back to Southwest Florida that will really invigorate the environment and invigorate the economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah Orton? Yes.
You think you got enough of me on the video, probably, right? I'll just make a few brief comments. I think it's important that I continue to represent your constituents so that we don't bring 3,000 people through here, but I'll represent our 3,500 friends of Bonita Estero Rail Trail. I'll represent the 22,000 homes in 26 HOAs in Lee County that have endorsed this project. And I'll represent people like San Carlos Park that we certainly do not want to disenfranchise, because I hear from them daily by email about how they want a safe place, like Patty Whitaker just said, a safe place to be able to commute to work because they ride their bikes. So I have just one request today, and then I'll sit down, and that is really to echo what Doug Hadaway said, and that if we all work together, that's what our state representatives, we had meetings yesterday with our state representatives and senators that asked the question, well, where is Lee County on this? Where is Bonita Springs? We need to be able to come together to move this forward. So that's my ask of all of you, is that you help us do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Corey?
Good morning. I'm Chris Corey. I represent District 4 in Bonita Springs on the City Council. This morning, as I was driving to pick up Mr. Forbes, his taxi service, I drove through our disadvantaged areas in Bonita Springs and watched all the workers in that area getting around on their bicycles. I then picked up Fred and we headed north on I-75. And we got up closer to Corkscrew, and I noticed all of a sudden that the traffic was backed up coming south. And that traffic was backed up clear to Daniels. And it reminded me that the commission this week approved a 6.5 mile bicycle trail, pedestrian trail in Lehigh. And I applaud the commission for doing that. If for no other reason than we need to realize that the younger workforce that we're trying to attract in for our businesses are looking for a healthy lifestyle that things such as a bike trail can provide. The Florida League of Cities program last month focused on the fact there's a net migration out of Broward, Palm Beach, Miami-Dade counties, and even Collier counties going north. We're no longer necessarily competing with those counties for our workforce. Where are we competing? We're competing with Ocala, the cities around Gainesville, and even as far east as Jacksonville. Why? One, because of affordable housing for workers, and two, because of the opportunities for those workers to lead a healthy lifestyle and recreate. So are bike trails simply for recreation? No. They're for economic opportunities. They're for attracting younger members of the workforce to our communities. And it makes sound economic sense to do this kind of thing. The other thing that we have to remember, if you looked at the paper this morning and yesterday, Microsoft and BlackRock have agreed to pull together a $30 billion program for artificial intelligence. Leveraging that out into the debt market, that will raise another $70 billion. The focus on technology and the workers needed for that technology is amazing. And this morning we saw that in the paper that Microsoft is acquiring 3 Mile Island, something that we all heard about, the China syndrome back in the 70s and so forth, that those atomic plants have been shut down for decades. Why? Because of the immense need for electricity to fund what they see as a technological revolution. We are in an age where we're going to need younger workers if we're going to compete. And those businesses that utilize artificial intelligence and the cloud computing systems are going to be the ones that succeed. But to do that, businesses are going to need a younger workforce that has grown up with that kind of environment. Is Lehigh going to benefit from that? Yeah, because they put in a rail trail. Can the rest of Lee County benefit from it? I think it can. We need to strategically think about the future. I don't think we can solve our road problem simply by pouring concrete. I think we have to look at the Rails to Trails program as part of a multimodal system of transportation and an opportunity for people to improve their lifestyle. So I encourage the board and I encourage the commission to act on this, to become part of the solution together with Estero and Bonita and Collier County, and let's move forward to a brighter future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else that didn't fill out a card want to take an opportunity to speak on this topic? Seeing none, thank you for the presentation. We'll move on. We have other business. Any public comments on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to the Lee-Tran/TD report.
Good morning, Kelly Fernandez from Lee-Tran. I have a brief update for you this morning, and I will start with ridership results. Our fixed route ridership is actually up 21.68% year to date. Our paratransit ridership had an off-season average of approximately 600 passengers daily. Our MOD service transported 1,450 riders weekly, ending 9/15/25. This is, I apologize, slightly down from the prior year. Our 2025 TDP plan is our transit development plan, good grief. Our transit development plan for 2025 is underway with its steering committee. We have focus groups that we'll be reaching out to. We should have sent out an email this morning to those focus group folks inviting the municipalities to participate. We expect that those meetings will be held right here in this room. The TDP has a scheduling delivery date to FDOT for review on September 1st, 2025. And we have received 12 of our 14 paratransit vehicles, which were ordered last year, and we have an additional 6 on order for spring of 2025. This will bring our fleet back in line with our asset replacement schedule. The Trans pre-seasonal service hiring event was held on September 10th, and the event was attended by 133 prospective applicants. This is the highest we've seen in the last several years, and we've offered 19 driving positions as of today, and those folks can start by October. We have begun the ADA bus stop improvement project, which will include the design, engineering, and construction at 136 bus stops. This will occur in a phased approach over a 3-year period, and we are currently in design and anticipate the construction of the first 50. And those stops, we expect to see the final construction on those first 50 mid-2025. Bus stop signage that you saw at a prior meeting has been installed on Estero Island for the Fort Myers Beach trolley. The fixed route signs had to be remanufactured. We saw some flaws in those, and we should be receiving those in October for installation system-wide early mid-2025. Our seasonal tram service on Fort Myers Beach and the downtown trolley service will begin on November 21st. And our Lehigh Acres Park and Ride is on pace for a substantial completion in January with the final completion in March. And that is all I have for you this morning, unless you have any questions.
Any questions from the board? Thank you.
Thank you.
We have an FDOT report.
Good morning, Wayne Gaither with the Florida Department of Transportation. LK sends his apologies for not being able to make today's meeting. He got pulled away for an event at the very last minute, so I will sit in for him. First thing that we have for our FDOT report is we'd like to invite everyone for attend the 2025 Florida Transportation Plan Regional Workshop. A flyer was provided to each of you. It should be in your packets. I think Don took care of all of that for everyone. This event is taking place Thursday, September 26th from 2:30 to 4:30. It's located in Venice. It's going to be held at the Venice Community Center. The address is located with the flyer that you have. The intent of this is for the Florida Transportation to provide the update for our document, which basically establishes our pathway, our guidance for the next 30 years of transportation planning for the state. One of the big things that we are working for with the public outreach, the workshops that we're doing, is to have the community engagement for this process. We want to get feedback not only from Florida residents, but visitors and basically all users for the transportation network that the Florida Department of Transportation works on and maintains. The second thing I would like to bring up is also another public outreach effort that the district is pursuing, and that was a thing called the Transportation Talks. This was a pilot project that we did. It was actually held back on August 28th, so just about 2 weeks ago over at the Riverside Community Center. Transportation Talks centered on this case around the State Road 80 Palm Beach Boulevard area. Quite a bit of work that we do in that location. And the intent is to proactively engage communities in the discussion of our corridors and the infrastructure and the work that we put in those corridors. So at that point, it's whatever the community chooses to bring up. We don't have a set agenda for these meetings. A couple of the items that we received as far as comments from the public dealt with traffic and environmental hazards, and I'm just kind of categorizing these things for you. There was also quite a bit of discussion on adding pedestrian infrastructure along State Road 80 as a concern, along with landscaping that benefits both pedestrian and bicyclist activities. And obviously in this area, stormwater drainage is always a concern for the communities that go on. So there were quite a few questions that were related to that. What's next for Transportation Talks? We are going to continue the efforts of the pilot discussion that we started, centered around State Road 80, with outreach to the HOAs in the area. And then we will expand throughout District 1, the 12 counties that create District 1, to have more discussions related with the corridors that the state has and the communities that these corridors serve. If there's any questions, I will be more than happy to do my best to answer them.
Any questions for Wayne from the board? Thanks, Wayne.
Thank you.
Don, do we have any announcements?
Yes.
Go ahead, Fred.
Two things I want to make MPO aware of. I know I made a proposal to MPO that 951, when it gets extended, does not go across Bonita Beach Road. I know that FDOT and MPO is studying this as an alternate route, which is to go east of Bonita National. A couple things I want to point out. Number one, I took the liberty of talking to at least Phil Flood, who's the local Southwest or South Florida Water Management District person, and he didn't think South Florida Water Management would have a problem with allowing getting a right-of-way through their property, which would happen to be in that area. Number one. Number two, FDOT needs to explore where are you going to get the right-of-way if you don't go east of Bonita National, because everything else is built out. You're going to end up buying a mile long, about 90 homes side by side at the edge of either Village Walk or Bonita Valencia. There may be thoughts that you can go another way, or there may be a right-of-way, but I think you're going to find out you can't. So if you can't, this is a better way in the first place, because you're going across only 30% of the width of the county DRGR. Anyone at this table has to know that it's cheaper to build a road on good ground than on a swamp. So you're going to have 30% to cross the DRGR there, or 100% any place else you cross it if you go on the Bonita Beach Road. And the argument that, well, how do the people from 951 get up to Bonita Beach Road if that's where they want to go? All they have to do is do just what they do now. Go down to Mockway Road a couple blocks from where 951 ends, make a turn to the north, and come up Logan Boulevard. And you're on Bonita Beach Road. But you're not exposing Bonita Beach Road to all the other traffic that would come if you extend 951 across it. I know I've talked to Commissioner Greenwell about it because he's interested in seeing that happen. And this is being pushed by people other than MPO. But if you're going to do it, that's the way to do it. And you still would get an opportunity for anyone that's coming up 951 to get on Bonita Beach Road. So that's my announcement.
Yeah, go ahead, Wayne.
Mr. Chair, and Councilmember Forbes, just to touch base on this, there is a lot of discussion that is going on establishing a new route out there, but right now we are at a discussion point. We have not initiated any studies. We haven't. Oh, Don, did you have something?
Yeah, we're doing a study. We have about 5 different alternatives that covers what Fred's talking about, and including the one that was almost approved back in 2006. We have gone a little bit slower because I've noticed with the new, we have the new regional model that we're running, the Lake Alico extension has more traffic than it was before. So we're trying to see some of the impacts with that, but we will be bringing presentations and stuff to the board as we move forward with that study.
Check out that right-of-way availability, because you're going to have to buy 90 homes, close to 700,000-800,000 a pop. So that's what's going to cost you just to buy the dirt, and then you have the cost of tearing those houses down, because there is no other place to put it. And you're going to find out if you think you can come up one way, you can't come that way. Once you find that out, it changes the whole ball game.
Member Hayden?
Thanks, Chair. On Wednesday, the Cape Coral City Council passed a resolution supporting an hurricane evacuation study that was done by CDM Smith. This is important for us because the city of 215,000 people, our hurricane evacuation routes are limited. you've got Burnt Store, you've got Pine Island, you've got the two bridges. So the need for another evacuation route is important, especially at a time when our hurricane seasons are active, storms are intense, as we saw a couple years ago. So we hope that this group and the FDOT will make this a priority. That evacuation route, which would be the Del Prado interchange in the future, would actually reduce evacuation times by 27% or 18 hours. And when you combine that with the new Cape Coral Bridge, you combine that with the widening of the midpoint, you combine that in the future with the widening of Pine Island Road, that really improves our opportunities to get people out to where they need to go quicker. Also for Cape Coral, we've only got one hurricane shelter in the city, so we're limited there as well, although a second one is planned. So moving forward, I know you all have a copy of the resolution and of the study. Please look it over, and as this group moves forward, please make it a priority with funding as it becomes available. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Henshaw?
Yes, I just wanted to, there's not much, we've already made a decision, at least the city council for Sanibel. We decided to ban all classes except Class 1 e-bikes. So no scooters. And the reason for that is that our path, our shared use path, is narrow in some places, sharp turns, sand on the path. It's not safe for driving a Class 2 or riding a Class 2 or Class 3 bike or any other device except for a Class 1 pedal assist. So the city council had been debating whether we up it to Class 2. We decided that it was not safe in our shared use path to do that. So Sanibel would be for bikes, for handicap vehicles, whatever those devices are, as well as Class 1. All the other micro-mobility devices will be not part of our shared use path. At some point down the road, we're able to construct better paths, wider paths, reaching the 10-foot. From a safety standpoint, we're really concerned about speed as well. So we will have speed limits on some of the spots. Now, enforcement's going to be very difficult. But the idea is to alert whoever's riding the path that if there's a sharp turn, you got to slow down to negotiate that turn. So we're also going to impose speed limits. And the city manager will do that. How we're going to enforce that, I don't know how we're going to enforce it. But right now, City Council has agreed that only Class 1 e-bikes, all electric other vehicles are not approved to ride on the shared use path.
Thank you. Commissioner Greenwell?
Since we opened up discussion about Fred talking about that ideal, basically what I did was ask some of our state representatives. We're obviously designing and trying to build a road that's going to help us go from, Alico all the way up State Road 80. And it seemed like there was some interest of maybe trying to tie that in farther down south. So the bottom line is, I'm just basically trying to organize the people to try to get their minds together and say, is this something that makes sense for all of Southwest Florida? I've spoke with Ben Albritton, as well as our state reps about helping us with funding and getting some ideas about this. This could be a game changer for Southwest Florida. So it is just in the talking about it phase, but I feel like, the county is moving forward on building that, trying to get that done from Alico to State Road 80. It just makes sense to tie it in further if at all possible and see if we could get the state involved as well. So just a conversation, but at this point, but it seems to make a lot of sense from my perspective.
I want to hasten to point out, if you do what I'm telling you about going east of Benita National, you still can hook into Corkscrew. You can still hook into Alico when they extend it. You can go up to State Route 82.
Mayor McLean?
I'd just like to kind of give an update on the Village of Estero. Council and staff have been working diligently over the last several months. We've been working on our entertainment 20 acres where we're putting in 21 pickleball courts and the like, and that land has now been cleared, and so we're getting the pads ready. That's going to be a great addition to the Village of Estero and the surrounding areas also. We also have worked with the Lee County School District, and we have taken over their athletic fields there, 52, 59 acres. And the first phase of that was that we redid their football field. So they now have professional grade AstroTurf on their football field for their games, and we opened that up for their first game here several weeks back. But another important thing that we've been working on and discussing and what we've been hearing back from our constituents is they're really excited about that, but equally to that, the whole BERT program that we talked earlier, and I thank the folks that spoke about that earlier today, so I'm not going to belabor the benefits and advantages of that. But we do have a timeline. We got about a year and a half, and as some of you are more familiar with getting grants and getting funding, it takes time to do that. So time is really of the essence, and when we are looking for grants and we're talking about these, one of the things that always comes back, and from our state representatives, and it may have been talked about today, is where are the constituents that are going to get the benefit of it? I don't want to speak for Bonita Springs, but I'm sure they are 100% behind this. The Village of Estero is 100% behind it. Collier County, from conversations, looks like they are behind it. The void that we have right now is we don't understand, is Lee County willing to commit to help us move this thing forward for the purchase? I know there's a significant amount of cost involved after the purchase, but the opportunity is now for $82 million, and we're sure not looking for massive amounts of money from Lee County with all the other priorities you've got. I think it was well spoken today that this is a transportation project, and we'd like to have it brought up into your top line thinking is, can you participate to help us generate fundings? Will you spend some dollars? Yes. I don't know the exact amounts those would be, but it's not an insignificant amount, but it's also not overly burdensome. And we can discuss that. I'm sure the Public Land Trust can talk to you about the details of what needs to be committed if they haven't already done it, but we want to get behind that. I want to see this move forward. I see this as a great economic, safe opportunity for all of Lee County, and it benefits the cities, the businesses, and obviously if we can eliminate all the deaths associated with bicycling and walking, I just wanted to bring that up, that we want to keep this thing moving forward. So whatever support you can do, we'd appreciate either comments or individual meetings to see what we can do to move this thing forward. Thank you.
Don? Anything?
Next item.
Information and distribution items?
So we got the letter from the governor's office approving our apportionment, which was essentially the same as what it was before. It just took a while. That's why Commissioner Pendergrass is shown on there. Also put in a notice for the FTP meeting that Wayne was talking about, and Mobility Week is information guide, which is at the end of the month.
Thank you. Entertaining a motion to adjourn?
Second?
All those in favor? Thank you. We're adjourned.